Security at the southern border, the newly unveiled White House immigration plan, plus the battle over abortion in America. We look at the different measures moving through the states, all with the goal of making it before the Supreme Court. And why some say the Equality Act could spell trouble for religious freedom. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. President Trump has a new plan to deal with immigration. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. The president released his plan this afternoon in a speech from the White House Rose Garden. It would include sweeping changes, like clamping down on chain migration.
Border security is already big for this administration, so the plan aims at tackling that as well. For a full breakdown, we'll turn to CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Ben, what are the biggest priorities in the president's plan?
Well, John and Jenna, the president's plan hits on two key areas: securing the border and changing the immigration system. It begins with a shift of who comes into this country, move from a family-based system to a merit-based system. Right now, 12% of immigrants are admitted based on their employment and skills. 66% are admitted due to family ties. The White House aims to flip those numbers. 57% employment and skills, 37% family, and 10% humanitarian or other grounds. Bottom line, priority for visas would be given to highly skilled workers.
You will get more points for being a younger worker, meaning you will contribute more to our social safety net. You will get more points for having a valuable skill, an offer of employment, an advanced education, or a plan to create jobs. It's time to restore our national unity and reaffirm our national purpose. It is time to rebuild our country for all Americans. Together, we will create an immigration system to make America safer and stronger and greater than ever before. Thank you. God bless you all.
Now, the president also wants to end the visa lottery system. On border security, he wants to build a wall, update the immigration process by closing loopholes, and even expediting cases in court. He aims to modernize the system to help with what he continues to call a crisis at the border. John, Jenna?
Ben, how are Democrats reacting?
Well, Jenna, Democrats say that the president is ignoring the most critical issue: how to address the 11 million undocumented immigrants already right here in the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says we have to come together for comprehensive immigration reform, but takes issue with a merit-based system.
I want to just say something about the word that they use, merit. It is really a condescending word. Are they saying family is without merit? Are they saying most of the people who have ever come to the United States in the history of our country are without merit because they don't have an engineering degree? Certainly, we want to attract the best in our to our country, and that includes many people from many parts of society.
The White House's plan also did not touch on the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA, which, John and Jenna, you know, is very important to Democrats.
And Ben, Senator Lindsey Graham introduced his own GOP plan Wednesday. Are the two complementary, and will the White House plan gain traction on Capitol Hill?
Well, John, it's tough to say. Odds are it'll probably stop short of gaining bipartisan support, but some Republicans have come out and said they like the president's idea to revamp the visa system, and unlike Speaker Pelosi, are a fan of rewarding high-skilled workers.
Shifting our immigration system from a system that primarily focuses on unskilled and low-skilled workers and instead focuses on the high-skilled, highly trained, English-speaking workers that we need.
It is also important to note, and the president talked about this in the Rose Garden a couple hours ago, the plan also does not change the number of green cards given out each year, which will stay at 1.1 million. John, Jenna?
All right, Ben Kennedy for us at the White House. Thank you, Ben. Pro-life movements on the state level continue to sweep the nation. Tonight, Missouri joins at least 10 other states in passing new bans on abortion. With Missouri Republicans holding majorities in both houses and the governor's office, this law's passage seems inevitable.
It's important for this legislation to get done.
Governor Mike Parson's signature is the last step in enacting the latest state bill to ban abortion.
The time of choice is the time of conception, not after conception.
The Missouri legislation makes no exceptions for rape or incest, and doctors performing abortions after an 8-week pregnancy could face 15 years in prison.
As other states like New York and Virginia venture further away from the American ideal to protect and uphold the right to life, I am honored to lead a state standing here today with many of my colleagues and with so many others who are committed to standing up for those without a voice.
Missouri is set to become the 11th state to pass new abortion restrictions this year and would join Alabama as the latest state to enact laws banning abortion, in some cases as early as 6 weeks or when a fetal heartbeat is detected.
All human life is precious.
Wednesday, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey signed its law restricting abortion in all cases except serious risk to the mother's health, punishing doctors with up to 99 years in prison.
They're trying to go on a path that will totally dismantle Roe v. Wade.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi's take is the stated goal of those behind Alabama's new law.
No law is constitutional until the Supreme Court actually revisits Roe versus Wade.
And with so many cases running through the states, the bet is one should hit the high court.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
But as pro-life legislation expands, new laws enforcing Roe v. Wade are also taking hold. This week, Vermont took steps in joining New York to reaffirm abortion as a constitutional right.
The court gets to decide what will be before them, when it will be before them, but I do know there's an incredible response for life around the country.
On Faith Nation this week, former Congresswoman Marilyn Musgrave called the pro-life wellspring a new day.
Science is on our side. Young people are becoming more and more pro-life, and women in greater numbers support these pro-life actions than men.
And since the Supreme Court's precedent of Roe v. Wade binds all lower courts, the Alabama law is automatically unconstitutional and is unlikely to spur a case before the 9 justices. Either way, the prospect is pushing abortion out of the states and no doubt onto the 2020 campaign trail.
Well, joining us now is senior Washington correspondent Paul Strand. Paul, what kind of hurdles does this newly signed Alabama law have to go through in order to get to the Supreme Court?
Well, first thing, somebody's got to sue over it and say, you know, this is unenforceable, this is unconstitutional, and then a court has to take it up. Probably then it goes to an appeals court. Then it might go up to a circuit court. And if other laws around the nation are maybe going to be contradictory to this, decisions at that circuit court level, then the Supreme Court may come in to say, well, we can't have one side of the country saying this and one side of the country saying that. We're going to decide the issue. So probably something like that all the way up, and maybe not just this case, but others coming against it at the same time.
In Alabama, you've already had the ACLU and Planned Parenthood saying they're going to contest this law.
Yeah, and actually, this law, a lot of people say that they don't even think that the Alabama lawmakers who passed it were necessarily trying to get this to be a law, but more or less this is a challenge to Roe v. Wade. They really want to get challenged and taken all the way to the Supreme Court. This may not be the right case for it, but we shall see.
Yeah, exactly. Critics say this is not the right case to take to the Supreme Court. Several others moving through different states. Paul, what other states have a better chance?
Interestingly, these heartbeat bills that have been passed in a number of states now, that may be a good chance because it's basically saying, look, there's a heartbeat. This is a life. And it's a little hard to contradict that. A lot of times people say, you know, you're not aborting a baby, you're aborting a clump of cells or something. But if you have a beating heart, that really does define personhood. And, you know, and what decides death is when your heart stops beating. So it seems to me that's the heartbeat bills have a good chance, and they're passing in more and more states right now. So
we're seeing a lot of movement, as you just alluded to, on the state level. Are any of these state laws going to be enforceable?
Well, that's the problem, is if they are actually go right up against Roe v. Wade, then probably not. But that, again, is why these legislators are trying to fashion their laws just to get challenged and taken all the way up there. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what everybody's hoping for.
Yeah, after Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court, a lot of people were saying, well, this is the end of Roe. But, Paul, you actually say that even with him, if 5 conservatives on the Supreme Court, you don't think that's enough to actually overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, because it seems like since Justice Kennedy retired, Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice himself, seems to have been the guy that's weighing in there more and more, is trying to not make some big decision, keep the cases small. Like often they will toss a case back to the state, saying, you know, let's rule on this one little piece of it. So Roberts seems to be leaning that way, and Kavanaugh so far he's sided with the liberals more than most people thought he would. So right now, I'm not sure. I think you have 3 solid votes, but I'm not sure you have 5 solid votes. So the pro-life community may be pushing a little too hard, a little too soon. I think if you get one more justice in there, that might really help.
Yeah, finally, Paul, how much of an issue do you think this will be in 2020?
I think this is going to be huge, and I think the way that the pro-abortion side has pushed their thing so much to make it like, you know, they want abortion right up to the moment of birth, and in some cases even after birth if the babies survive an abortion. I think this is really radicalizing people on both sides of the issue, and it's going to be a major campaign issue.
All right, Paul Strand, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, the House of Representatives is likely to pass the Equality Act Friday, a bill opponents say doesn't live up to its name. Abigail Robertson joins us from Capitol Hill. Abigail, critics warn the bill goes far beyond what meets the eye.
That's right, John. House Republicans want to pull back the curtain on the so-called Equality Act, a bill Minority Leader Steve Scalise calls the most invasive threat to a parent's involvement in children's medical decisions he's seen during his entire time in Congress.
The son can actually go to a doctor without the parent's involvement at all, even if the parents object vocally. Under this bill, the doctor has to treat the boy to ultimately transfer over to be a female.
Kids of all ages.
I'm not talking about 18, 19-year-olds. I'm talking about 10, 11, and 12-year-olds.
It's already happening in states with laws similar to the Equality Act.
In Ohio, there was a parents that had their parental rights taken away from them because they refused to go along with giving hormone treatments to their teenage child.
And if doctors refuse,
we've had other states that have sued hospitals who have, their faith-based hospitals, who have not gone along with doing a sex change operation on a child, and they're being sued for discrimination.
If passed, the bill would amend the Civil Rights Act to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity.
We cannot allow claims of religious freedom to be used to discriminate against an LGBT individual.
But Scalise argues it's strayed far from its advertised purpose.
And if that's what they were concerned about, that's what the bill would have been focused on. But it's not. What Speaker Pelosi and a lot of the radical left socialists have done is given it a nice sounding name, Equality Act. But then they embedded in it so many things that are against equality.
And it even addresses abortion.
They take away the protections that taxpayer money won't be used for abortion.
Some LGBTQ advocates like Kara Dansky are joining conservatives speaking out against the bill.
I am certain that the people here with me today profoundly disagree with me about many issues, but we are here together to take a strong stand for the rights, privacy, and safety of women and girls.
Dansky tells CBN News,
if the bill is permitted to go through, it would redefine the word sex to mean gender identity, and that has grave consequences for women and girls.
Hartzler, a former track coach, argues it would prove detrimental to women's sports.
It tramples on the rights of women and others by forcing a top-down government discrimination against those who hold differing views on marriage and on human sexuality.
She believes if this becomes federal law, it'll be the end of religious liberty cases winning in court.
There would be no more little sisters of the poor being able to go to court and get their rights. There would be no more Hobby Lobby. There would be no more Jack Phillips being able to say, you cannot force me to use my gifts and talents to make a cake that goes against my deeply held religious beliefs.
This bill is expected to pass the Democrat-controlled House tomorrow, but as of now, it's unlikely Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will bring it to the Senate floor for a vote this session. However, we've likely not seen the end of the Equality Act, as this bill has been introduced in some form each session since the 1970s.
All right, Abigail Robertson on Capitol Hill, thank you. Well, to 2020 in the ever-growing field of Democrats. Another hopeful threw his hat into the ring today.
Donald Trump must be stopped. I've beaten him before, and I will do it again. I'm Bill de Blasio, and I'm running for president because it's time we put working people first.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is now the 23rd candidate hoping to take on Donald Trump in the presidential election. De Blasio has served as mayor since 2014, but he actually doesn't have a lot of support from his hometown. A recent poll from Quinnipiac finds 76% of New York voters say they don't think de Blasio should be in the race.
Well, this month, thousands of college students will walk across the stage to collect their diplomas, but most leave school with more than just a degree. They're also saddled with hundreds of thousands of dollars of crippling debt.
Yeah, some of the Democratic presidential hopefuls are proposing free tuition to solve the college debt crisis. And as Jennifer Wishon explains, some churches and charities are also stepping up.
College is a lot. It's a lot of money.
Maya Thompson is a graduating senior at Howard University. She's also a mom.
So some days I work 5 days a week and some other days I work 2 days a week.
Recently, she and 33 other Howard students received some divine intervention, courtesy of a D.C. area church. Over 40 days, the congregation of Alfred Street Baptist Church fasted, prayed, and gave as God guided them. This is the fruit of the $100,000 they raised.
We heard the Lord say we ought to do something good for some people who are getting ready to graduate. So came over here to Howard. Pulled out the names of seniors who had some holds on their account just because of balances that were left over after financial aid and all that. And we want to let you know your account has been paid in full, man. You're clear to graduate.
Oh! Tuition at public universities costs 3 times what it did in the late 80s. Graduating seniors can rack up $20,000 to $40,000 in debt by the time they collect their diplomas. Nationwide, Americans owe $1.5 trillion in student debt.
So how did students get into this mess of debt? Some say the government is to blame. Colleges know students have easy access to billions in federal aid, encouraging them to drive their tuition prices higher and higher.
We're seeing the price of college increase exponentially.
Mary Claire Amsalem follows college trends for the Heritage Foundation.
If we had a robust private lending market, we would have private lenders competing to give loans to students and colleges competing for students rather than the other way around.
The situation is dire.
A lot of students in my school, we share books. So like someone has the book, it's like, hey, can I take a picture of that page?
Some students find themselves choosing between college expenses or putting food on the table. Reports from Mississippi and Kentucky reveal the growth in students turning to food pantries. As for Maya Thompson, she plans to return to Howard next year to surprise a student with a gift in the same amount Alfred Street Baptist Church gave to her.
I can't wait to put a smile on another student's face next semester.
A good deed put in motion by a faithful congregation. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
A surprising look at how millennials are embracing faith and community when we come back.
Young evangelicals are more likely to be actively seeking community in church than older evangelicals. A new study finds 61% of millennial evangelicals attend church at least once a week. That's compared to 54% of baby boomers. And only 44% of Gen X evangelicals say they attend church each week. When it comes to charitable giving, 68% of evangelical millennials say they give annually, 63% of Gen Xers say the same, and 78% of evangelical boomers and older say they donate to charities each year. Well, Matt Brown may not be a household name like other more well-known Christian evangelists, yet his influence after 17 years of ministry is undeniable. He reaches millions of people daily with the message of the gospel.
And while it seems more and more people are turning away from the faith, I got a chance to talk to Matt about why he says truth plus love is key in sharing the good news.
Hey, I'm Matt, and I think that we'd all agree that this world is full of bad news.
As a young influencer with a large social following, Matt Brown laughs at how he once resisted technology.
I was slow to get a cell phone, I was slow to get a computer, I was slow to get on social media.
Then he learned how those same technologies could serve as a pulpit.
I was an evangelist, so I was waiting on pastors to have me come in and preach, and so I was like, I don't need to wait here, I can just write, I can just minister.
While he frequently speaks at conferences and churches and even TV shows, Brown reaches around 5 million people a month through his online ministry, Think Eternity, helping hundreds each year to accept Jesus as their Savior.
It's been said that complaining about God being silent when your Bible is closed is like complaining about not getting text messages when your phone is turned off. We want to minister to people right where they are, through social media, through the internet, through Google and these things. And so it's just an opportunity and a place to communicate.
But Matt also noticed something that disturbed him. People behaving poorly on social media, including Christians, especially when conversations turned political.
I'm not telling people that they should engage politics or other things any certain way. There's different thoughts about that. But just, we got to be careful about how we disagree, who we call intolerant.
It's a topic he discusses in a new book, Truth Plus Love. Growing up in a Christian home, he measured spiritual maturity by how often he prayed or studied the Bible. Now he says it's about something deeper, the fruit of the Spirit.
You can be passionate about the Word of God and miss all the scriptures about being compassionate and being kind. There's so many. Like, be gentle, bear with each other, keep the unity. This is why I'm so passionate about this message. I wanted to write Truth Plus Love.
Matt says, as Christian ambassadors, believers need to model both in a balanced way. He believes failing to do so may be one factor turning others away from religion. Today, about 1 in 4 Americans claim no religious affiliation, and that number is higher among millennials. Young adults are more than 3 times as likely to identify as religiously unaffiliated as seniors.
Lying is not the path of salvation.
Many feel turned off by a view of Christianity seemingly defined by politics or hot-button issues.
This world is full of bad news. We get it every day on our phones. We get it on our social.
Matt's on a mission to redeem the social media landscape, urging Christians to be good online stewards and model Christ-like truth and love rather than sound off with anger or try to win arguments.
So we stop for a second. We go, is this loving? Is this joyful? Is this kind? Is this gentle? Am I exhibiting self-control? If you think about, someone who has a lot of love and a lot of joy and a lot of peace, who does not want to be around that person? I've never met an encourager who doesn't have a lot of friends, So I think God calls us to this. And so as we do that, it will make us more effective for His kingdom, more effective in our lives in general.
His wife, Michelle, sees that as the key to Matt's ministry.
He's encouraging, and there's not many people that are authentically encouraging, and that would be my 2 words for him, that he's authentic and encouraging, that what you see is what is the real deal.
His effort to reclaim social media connects him with other partners, big and small, and in some cases, totally unexpected, like last year when Facebook, of all places, invited Matt to host a summit of Christian social media influencers.
And that was a really interesting gathering of church leaders. There was about 80 of us. We actually got to worship and pray in one of the meeting rooms there at one point with some of the employees.
For Matt, this redemption goal means pouring into young evangelical leaders, helping many to grow their influence and sign book deals.
I've learned just the joy of generosity through that, to open doors for young leaders, to try to be a blessing to them, to not try to seek to get something or build our ministry through them, but to build them.
And whether using his influence through social media, his podcast, or an author, Matt Brown says he remains committed to helping people think from an eternal perspective, extending the truth, love, grace, and joy of Jesus Christ to a hungry and hurting world.
Well, coming together to remember the life of the student who died trying to protect others in that Colorado school shooting.
Friends and family of the teen who gave his life to stop a Colorado school shooting gathered to remember his sacrifice.
18-year-old Kendrick Castillo will forever be known as a hero. He bravely helped stop a school shooting in Highlands Ranch near Denver. He was shot and killed when he tried to attack one shooter to protect others. Castillo was known as a robotics junkie with a big smile who ushered at Saturday Mass. His father and teachers remembered an exceptional young man they said was always willing to help others.
What a brave young man who will be remembered as a hero for years to come.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for Faith Nation.
See you tomorrow.